Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are pulling back that big velvet curtain and strapping ourselves into the notorious red spinning chair.
That's right.
We're going to analyze the behemoths of televised vocal competitions, specifically The Voice, both here in the US and the international formats, and of course its predecessor, American Idol.
And we're not just here to recap who won the latest season.
No, not at all. We are digging into everything you don't see. We're talking about the backstage contracts, the financial mechanics driving the coaches' decisions, the production secrets, and maybe most importantly, the systemic failures that lead to genuine superstars being rejected.
That's absolutely right. Our mission for this deep dive is to really explore that fundamental tension that defines these shows. It's the conflict between, pure, raw musical talent and the production manipulation, the narrative crafting that's required to get ratings.
Right, for commercial viability.
Exactly. We want to understand why the non-winners, we're talking huge names, from Jennifer Hudson to Morgan Wallen to Melanie Martinez, often become bigger, more successful stars than the person who actually takes home the trophy.
And we have a ton of sources to get into. Everything from analysis of the recent season 28 blind auditions, insider accounts of staged moments, contract failures, and some really compelling comparisons with Idol and the X Factor.
We're going to expose the hidden mechanics from the very first audition all the way to that winner's contract.
Okay, so let's start with the ideal scenario. We have to admit, sometimes the blind audition format works exactly like it's supposed to.
For sure. It's important to see what success looks like in this format before we, pick apart the failures.
Right. And looking at season 28 highlights, there were moments where the coaches hit their buttons based purely on that vocal excitement.
Take the example of Vinya Chhabra.
Yeah.
She's a remarkable 14-year-old artist. And even before a single chair turned, the reaction in the room was just electric.
I remember that. Snoop Dogg immediately called her a powerhouse.
A powerhouse with superstar quality. This is the blind audition at its absolute best. The age, the appearance, none of that mattered. It was just the sheer quality of her voice cutting through.
And she got snapped up by Rhea McEntire, right, after a massive 4-chair turn.
Yep, which kind of confirmed that her youth wasn't a barrier. Her command of her voice was just too compelling to ignore.
Then you also have someone like Shan Scott, whose moment was all about that last-second drama the show loves. She was sitting there hoping, and then at the very last minute.
A one-chair turn from McEntire. And what Reba said afterwards reveals that really personal, subjective part of the choice. She said Scott has that little raspy thing going and admitted the more she was singing, the more I fell in love with her voice.
So even if 3 other coaches aren't feeling it, one personal connection can save an artist.
Exactly. And our sources noted McEntire actually has a great track record with these one-chair turns, so it shows the format allows for those intuitive gut feelings that often pay off.
Then there's the really interesting case of Liam Von Elb. I mean, this is a guy who is working inside the system.
Right. As a tour audio engineer, he had the behind-the-scenes view. So when he auditioned with Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, he gets turns from Neil Horan and Snoop.
And what Snoop Dogg said to him was so telling. It wasn't just about his voice.
Not at all. Snoop said, the sound of your voice was mesmerizing. But then he added, you're composed. You're the whole package. You're exactly what we need on the show.
Ah, there it is. What we need on the show.
That's the key. It reveals they're looking for someone who's ready for the vocal challenge and the television spotlight. Liam just needed that confidence boost to move from backstage to center stage.
And we can't forget Ava. Neil Horan compared her to Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo, saying, it's like you're reading out of a journal.
Which is a huge compliment today. It's all about authenticity, and she chose Horan. So yeah, these are all moments where the blind element seemed to work, to identify real talent.
Okay, so now let's unpack the other side of this, the paradox. Because when those chairs spin, the verdict can be, well, profoundly flawed.
Embarrassingly flawed sometimes. And it's precisely because the coaches miss the visual context, or they have this unconscious expectation of what a certain voice should look like.
The perfect and honestly pretty shocking example of this is the J. Maya incident.
Oh, this one is a classic case study.
Mia is a drag performer, and he chose to audition out of drag. His goal was simple, just hear my voice. But because he has this incredible high register, the coaches all thought he was a woman.
And that's where the whole system just breaks down. The fallout after the chairs turned was so telling. Blake Shelton literally asked, where's this singer?
I mean, that comment alone says everything about the expectation.
It's a deeply ingrained bias. Gwen Stefani immediately apologized. She said, I'm sorry I didn't turn. I feel dumb now about it.
But here's the key detail. They all said on camera that if they could have seen him perform, they would have turned instantly. Doesn't that just completely undermine the whole point of the format?
It does. It 100% does. It confirms that the blind part, while it sounds nice and idealistic, often strips away the context you need to appreciate a unique, genre-bending artist. Their brains put the voice in a box, and when reality shattered that box, they just recoiled.
And then there's what the source material calls the life experience gap. This speaks volumes about what the coaches are really looking for.
Right. It's about marketability over, I guess, genuine emotional depth.
Our sources point to the season 3 rejection of Yolanda Barber, a 55-year-old bus driver.
And her performance was described by critics as fierce, flawless, and wonderfully heartfelt. You could hear a lifetime in her voice. And yet,
Unanimous rejection. All 4 chairs stayed put.
critics called it a shameful display. And the argument was that the coaches are just missing that deep emotional resonance that a live audience connects with instantly.
Okay, but let me just push back on that for a second. The coaches are trying to find someone they can shape, right? For a long career.
Yeah.
Is it really bias, or is it just a pragmatic business decision?
And that's the critical tension. The conclusion that analysts draw is that the coaches are acting as proxy A&R reps. They prioritize youthful potential or marketability over a voice that's already been shaped by a lifetime of hard work and heartache.
So they're looking for something they can mold.
Exactly. They see a 55-year-old, even with an incredible voice, as a finished, maybe unmarketable product, but they see a 14-year-old as a decade of potential revenue streams. The business of this show just overrides the pure appreciation of the performance.
Wow. Okay, let's transition from that to the business realities behind the coaches themselves.
Right, because the celebrity panel itself is a huge part of this. The constant rotation, Michael Bublé, Neil Horan, Reba, Snoop, it isn't just to keep it fresh for you at home.
It's a cost-cutting strategy.
It's a calculated strategy by NBC to manage costs while keeping up the perception of star power.
Let's get into the numbers here, because this is the engine driving the whole thing. We know Blake Shelton was the anchor. He stayed for 23 straight seasons.
An incredible run.
And he was reportedly making over $21 million per season toward the end. That's a huge fixed cost.
A colossal fixed cost.
Okay.
And you have to subsidize that, so the rotation is key. Our sources say they paid Christina Aguilera, who was a huge star, more than they paid her replacements at the time, like Gwen Stefani or Miley Cyrus.
But the best example of this has to be Ariana Grande.
Oh, for sure. They made a massive short-term investment in her for season 21. They were hoping her huge social media following would translate into a rating spike.
And it didn't really happen.
It didn't. The numbers didn't increase enough to justify that astronomical expense, so she was cut. It's ruthless. It shows that the coaching panel isn't about who's the best mentor. It's about who attracts the right demographic at the most economical price. It's a financial juggling act.
Okay, so here's where it gets really, really interesting for the artists themselves, and frankly, deeply ironic.
The loss of creative control.
Yes. The show's whole premise is that you're being coached on your musical identity, but that's largely a myth. Contestants often can't choose their own songs.
This is one of the most widely reported disconnects. The issue is basically music clearance and publishing rights. It's way easier for producers to use songs they already have clearance for.
It limits the artistic scope so much. Former contestant Frenchie Davis told this amazing story about it.
I remember this. She recalled getting critiqued by the judges on her song choice in her battle round. But the judges or producers had actually selected the song for her. It was Single Ladies by Beyoncé.
Can you imagine being criticized for a choice you didn't even make?
She said it was hysterical. It severely limits authenticity and artistic development. Insiders claim that serious artists who tried to change their song choices to fit their brand were just flat out denied.
And the manipulation goes even deeper. It's about emotional control, even linguistic control, to protect the show's brand.
There was a former finalist who made this stunning claim that the program is explicitly staged, and that they already know they won't win before the votes even happen.
Which speaks to the idea that producers are building a narrative arc. The underdog, the comeback.
Right. And if you don't fit that winning narrative, you might be subtly told that your journey is ending soon.
We have a specific anecdote about this staging. One contestant was apparently really annoyed about a song choice and complained backstage, "I didn't pick this fiffing song."
And what happened next is so revealing. The producers immediately stopped everything, made him go back, and refilm himself nodding and smiling and saying he was excited about the song.
They can't let the reality of it appear on camera. They have to present this narrative of happy collaboration.
Always. And then there's the language. Contestants are strictly forbidden from calling the panel judges.
They have to be coaches.
They have to be coaches. It's a branding choice. A judge implies a final critical verdict. A coach implies mentorship, nurturing. The show wants to position itself as a supportive environment, not a harsh contest like Idol used to be.
And even the blind audition itself isn't what it seems. To make that TV moment perfect, contestants actually sing on the main stage 3 times before the televised audition.
This is a detail most people would never consider. Those rehearsals reduce the first-time pressure. They eliminate sound issues. They let the production team fine-tune the lighting and camera angles.
But hold on. If they're doing it 3 times, doesn't that just completely negate the premise of raw, spontaneous discovery?
It absolutely does.
It stops being an audition and starts being a practiced performance.
It moves it from organic discovery firmly into the world of curated reality television. The drama isn't about the singer's surprise performance. It's about the coach's delayed reaction to a highly optimized piece of television.
And maybe the most brutal part of all is the immediate exit policy.
This is just devastating psychologically.
Yeah.
Former contestant Perkins said that when you're eliminated, you are removed from the set almost instantly.
You can't even say goodbye.
Can't say goodbye to your fellow contestants, the coaches, the production team. Think about the bond you form in that high-pressure environment. It's designed to wrap up the narrative cleanly for TV, but it treats the artists like disposable performers whose role is just over.
Wow. Okay, now we get to what is, for me, the most damning problem of this whole format, the flawed filter.
Yes, the critique that comes from the just staggering volume of future superstars who were rejected early on. It's this massive, almost hilarious disconnect between what producers want in a TV contestant and what the global music market actually wants in a star.
And you cannot talk about this without starting with Luke Combs.
The poster child for this failure.
Right.
One of the biggest names in modern country music, selling out stadiums, and he never even made it to the blind auditions on The Voice.
Let's get into his experience, because it's so telling. He said the whole thing felt like a cattle call, a nightmare. He sang a John Legend song first.
Right. And the producers showed some interest.
Mm.
But when he said he wanted to sing a country song for his next tryout, his actual genre, they basically forced him into a box. They were like, why did you sing John Legend first and now you want to sing country? We can't tell what you are.
And the final verdict from the producers, not the coaches, the people filtering who gets on TV, was that he was too boring for television.
Too boring.
Can you believe that? That rejection, based on perceived narrative utility rather than immense vocal talent, it's just a permanent indictment of their filtering system.
The irony is so thick. Blake Shelton, a country icon, heard about this and publicly said it was embarrassing for the show. He said Combs should frame that rejection letter and hang it next to his first triple platinum album.
And it's not just country. Lainey Wilson, another massive star, tried out for The Voice twice, never made it past the first round. She was also rejected 7 times by American Idol.
7 times.
It suggests the filters are designed for conformity, not artistry. Maren Morris got a triple rejection: The Voice, American Idol, and America's Got Talent.
These are people who went on to define modern music, and the system just failed to see them.
And what about Anthony Ramos? A Grammy winner for Hamilton, he auditions for a producer on The Voice.
And gets told to just work on his breathing for a year and come back. A year. He said he was crushed. A Grammy winner known for his incredible vocal endurance, dismissed with a single note.
And then he comes back to the show years later.
As a playoff mentor. The ultimate vindication.
Maddie Pop's journey is another one. She gets to the blind auditions on The Voice, rejected by all 4 coaches. She said it was really embarrassing.
But then, just 2 years later, she goes on American Idol and wins the whole thing. It proves her talent was never the issue. It was the specific taste of those 4 coaches in that specific season.
And this happens internationally, too. James Arthur was rejected by The Voice.
And then goes on to win the X Factor UK, where his winner's single became the biggest selling in the show's entire history.
So the narrative control doesn't stop with the blinds. It continues right into the battle rounds, which are basically strategic elimination by design.
This is where we get the concept of the sacrificial lamb. A coach will pair 2 amazing singers, knowing only one can advance. And sometimes they do it to intentionally eliminate an artist who is talented but maybe doesn't have the right narrative arc, or who poses a threat to the coach's intended winner.
They become the sacrificial lamb.
Exactly. They're cut early to clear the path.
There was a really stark example of this on The Voice Australia.
Oh, the one with the Mongolian throat singer?
Yes. Coach Guy Sebastian paired a pop singer, Johnny Manuel, against a Mongolian throat singer, Buku Ganberg, on Michael Jackson's Earth Song.
The pairing was immediately called an unfair match. The song choice so obviously favored the pop singer. Coach Kelly Rowland literally walked off the set in protest, calling it redundant and unfair.
Sebastian chose the pop singer, Manuel, and his explanation basically confirmed the bias. He said the show just suits a more traditional, pop-oriented singer.
Inadvertently admitting that the format's demands override any real appreciation for unique global vocal artistry.
Okay, so when we move from the producer-controlled stage to the live public voting, the big question becomes integrity.
Right. And there's so much cynicism around reality shows in general. The core question is the public vote manipulated?
Fan suspicion really boils over when a contestant advances despite, perceived vocal flaws. Our sources point to the fan outrage when Jaden Cree made the top 5 in season 27.
A lot of people online were saying she sounded like singing karaoke compared to other contestants and should have been eliminated. This led to all this speculation that the results had to be rigged.
And that suspicion was made so much worse by the show's constant push of her Nepo baby narrative.
Exactly. Jaden Cree is the daughter of a finalist from a previous season, Brian Keith. And production made sure you knew it. They showed her dad in the audience every single time, pushing this daughter following in her dad's footsteps storyline.
So it's exploiting celebrity connections for internal lore. It's a production strategy to build a fan base, regardless of her actual performance.
But it just fueled the cynicism. Fans started asking if her success was driven by talent or by her lineage, feeling like production had already decided she was important to the show's story.
And beyond the narrative stuff, there have been actual, documented technical problems that compromise the results.
The Season 6 iTunes voting glitch. This was a huge deal because back then, buying a single on iTunes counted as a vote.
A major system-threatening issue. A glitch prevented one finalist, Josh Kaufman's, singles from charting correctly, which threatened the fairness of the whole thing.
So the show had to intervene. They were forced to delete all of those iTunes purchases and votes to restore any trust in the process. It just showed how a simple tech glitch could completely undermine the whole competition.
And the controversies aren't just with the contestants. The coaching panel has had its own share of drama.
CeeLo Green from the original lineup left after Season 5 because of serious real-life controversies, assault accusations, inflammatory tweets.
Which is significant because the producers had originally promised that the original 4 coaches could always come back.
And that promise just evaporated. It showed that the network will always prioritize public image and minimizing liability over everything else.
And then there's Christina Aguilera's departure after Season 10, which was reportedly fueled by a feud with Blake Shelton.
The rumors were that Shelton wanted his new girlfriend, Gwen Stefani, to stay on the show instead, which made things untenable for Aguilera. It's a perfect example of how personal relationships and celebrity power dynamics directly influence who's in those chairs.
Finally, we have to look at the Snoop Dogg controversy from Season 28 because this goes right back to the integrity of mentorship.
Right. Snoop publicly criticized LGBTQ plus representation in the movie Lightyear, saying he was scared to go to the movies because of it.
And the conflict here is glaring. He had previously coached Jeremy Belote, a gay artist, all the way to the finals, and Belote had praised the show for its visibility.
Snoop's comments just directly contradicted that. It immediately raised serious questions. How can a queer artist feel genuinely supported by a coach whose public views seem to contradict the show's whole mission of inclusivity?
It creates a cognitive dissonance. Belote had talked about being bullied for his sexuality, the very kind of sentiment Snoop's comments seemed to echo.
It fundamentally complicates the idea of the celebrity coach as an unbiased, supportive mentor. They bring their own baggage, and the show has to manage that.
So after all of this, the staged auditions, the cost-cutting, the flawed filters, what does it all mean for the artists who actually win?
This is the biggest secret of these shows. Winning the contract, the supposed grand prize, is often the thing that most severely limits your long-term success. We call it the winner's curse.
The prize for winning The Voice was a rigid record deal with Universal Republic Records.
And that contract dictates everything immediately. It prioritizes a quick cash grab, like a fast winner's single, over careful, long-term artist development.
The Season 1 winner, Javier Colon, learned that the hard way.
He did. Just 1 year after his victory, he announced he was leaving the label, citing an unforeseen bad marriage between the label and I.
And what does that bad marriage mean? Creative differences.
It was a combination of a lack of creative control and just label indifference. He felt they weren't prioritizing his career. The label was interested in selling the story of the winner, not cultivating the artist.
Which is why non-winners often say that escaping that rigid contract gave them the freedom to actually build a real career.
For sure. And it's why, if you look at the track record, American Idol is still credited with creating more A-tier celebrities like Kelly Clarkson and Carrie Underwood.
But even with Idol, you have to talk about Jennifer Hudson.
The ultimate example. Eliminated 7th in her season, and she goes on to win an Academy Award. She proved that raw talent can transcend the show's internal mechanics.
Now let's look at The Voice's true stars, because here the pattern is even more clear. The most successful artists almost never won.
Starting with the global superstar, Morgan Wallen. Eliminated in the playoffs in season 6, the system decided he wasn't ready, or too boring.
And now he's a global country sensation, earning $25 to $30 million. He lost the competition, but won the commercial race by an undeniable margin.
And then there's Melanie Martinez. She only made it to the top 6 in season 3, but she built this massive, unique cult brand, double platinum album, huge streaming success. She thrived because she wasn't forced into the competition's pop mold.
Corinne Hawthorne, too. She placed 4th in season 8, chose the gospel genre, and just completely dominated it.
Broke the record for the longest chart-topping woman on the Hot Gospel Songs chart, 41 weeks, and 2 Grammy nominations. Her success came from carving out a niche, which the winner's contract probably would have discouraged.
Now, of the winners, Jordan Smith from season 9 stands out as an exception.
He was a massive seller on iTunes during his season, and post-win, he wrote the power ballad Ashes for Celine Dion for the Deadpool 2 soundtrack. That's a huge achievement.
And Cassidy Pope, the first female winner, got a Grammy nomination for her duet with Chris Young, so there are successes.
There are, but the larger narrative is clear. Victory on the show can be a handcuff. Often, failure is the freedom pass you need to pursue genuine long-term stardom on your own terms.
So this deep dive has really shown us the controlled chaos behind the red chair. We've explored the financial incentives, the cost-cutting, and this astonishing fact that rejection, like for Luke Combs, seems to be a faster path to freedom than actually winning.
We've seen that the filter actively rejects artistry in favor of a narrow definition of TV potential, favoring narratives like the Jaden Cree Nepo baby story over pure vocal talent.
And the very idea of success is broken. Carson Daly, the host, even said the measuring stick is antiquated. He says for many contestants now, just making a living in music after the show is winning.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. If the production team is actively culling talent they deem too boring for TV, or they're prioritizing a forced narrative over raw commercial potential, does the ultimate winner of the show even get the trophy anymore? Consider the irony. The show that champions the voice above all else sometimes rejects the most unique, genre-defining voices in the industry. The Morgan Wallens, the Maren Morrises, all for the sake of a quick rating. Isn't the true victory claimed by the independent star who proves that entire system wrong?
An incredible journey behind the microphone. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
Until next time.